So I want to give you the details of what's going on in Minnesota, as basically it's ugly, it's bad, and the Trump people know it. This is from Axios today. They said Trump's immigration erosion worries his team. And there was an advisor that shared what's going on with them. And I want to go over it with you. So this is from the advisor. They say, to the degree they support a more constrained approach, some advisors are playing to the president's occasional misgivings about the optics of some of the ICE tactics. So remember, Trump wants to make his reality show. He wants to basically put us all in the Squid Game, Hunger Games kind of thing. But it turns out people don't want to play Squid Game, Hunger Games, right? They just want to live their lives in peace. This is a quote from the Trump advisor. It says, I wouldn't say he's concerned about the policy, meaning Trump doesn't really care about people. Trump, he wants deportations. He wants mass deportations, okay? What he doesn't want is what people are seeing. He doesn't like the way it looks. It looks bad. So he's expressed some discomfort at that. So Trump actually doesn't care about people at all. He just cares about whether or not people like him on TV. They care if they like his TV show. And right now the TV show looks bad, and Trump's uncomfortable with that. He doesn't like people saying bad things or not liking his TV show. Here's more. There's the right way to do this, and this doesn't look like the right way to a lot of people. All right, this is coming from an advisor to Trump. They have internal polling numbers and like how people feel. Basically, people don't like what Trump is doing. That's basically what it boils down to. And the killing of Good, I think, is honestly a turning point. The whole thing is sad all around. I just want to make that clear. I don't want to ever make light of this. Someone lost a loved one, and it's sad. It's sad all around. You read a report of this stuff. We're getting more details of it. She was shot multiple times. There's a couple different reports. So one, if you look at Fox News, he said that she was shot 4 times. Another source said up to 4 times, but it just says here she was shot in the chest, the forearm, and face. So the whole thing's ugly. And if you saw the video right before she died, her last words were, "That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you." And she was waiting for the cars to go around, and then, Ross shoots her. We also have details of Ross. And before I go into this, I'll just say this. This whole thing didn't have to happen. This whole scenario, and I'm going to go over another shooting also, just represents the failed leadership of Donald Trump. And basically, he just wants us all fighting each other. That's basically what it is. When I go through this stuff, I feel like Ross shouldn't have been there. Renee shouldn't have been there. Like, none of this stuff should have been happening, right? And then for Trump's TV show, he just puts it all together and gets us to fight each other in this situation and kill each other. And when you go through Ross, it looks like he was a college Republican, which you can see. He served in the National Guard. He had a "Don't Tread on Me" flag. And you're going to get, I'm sure the channels will focus on, as the right winger and stuff like that. My focus is on, which is fine, I'm going over it, but my focus is on, he shouldn't have been there at all. And you need to keep an eye on Trump and just get ICE out of America's streets, because he's turning it all into a war zone. Just want to make sure that's clear. Also, I feel that Ross should certainly be charged and investigated. I totally feel that. And I understand why people are very upset if they don't do a full investigation on this stuff. But, I mean, they're digging up all kinds of stuff. So basically, I guess he was part of more like a special operations team. He would go after fugitives, high-value targets, cartel, drug war kind of stuff. So, being in America's neighborhoods, it's not the place for you to put people like Ross. It's just not. And that's why I said it's all about leadership, and certainly need to investigate and charge these people, certainly. But all these people should get out of America's neighborhood. It even says right here, this is like coming from Inside Eyes, it says the agency was dealing with a huge amount of burnout. The law enforcement officer said across U.S., ICE officers are being pushed to conduct more arrests and operations. So, they got quotas to meet. They're getting burnt out. These people have weapons. They're going to America's neighborhoods. Just this kind of stuff is going to happen. And I'm really concerned about preventing these situations. So yes, handle this investigation. Yes, charge Ross. I agree with all that stuff. But I also want to prevent further escalations and further events like this. I want to make that clear, and also just make sure it's clear that I feel really sorry about what happened to Renee Good. I feel really, really sorry about that. I also want to show the details of what's going on with the other shooting of the guy that was shot in the leg. It's very, very different account. We got a account from neighbors and from the family themselves. It's really different than what ICE reported in DHS. So first, I'll go over it, and I want to go over what eyewitnesses said, because it's interesting and important to hear. So this is the map. This shows where George Floyd was killed. You can see it there. This is where Renee Good was killed, and then this is part of the north part of the city. And we have a name now, so it's Julio Cesar Sosa Celi, and that was just a week after Renee's shooting. It's in north of Minneapolis. Basically, it was at the door, it sounds like. I'll read a little bit, and we'll go through some quotes here. It says, the family of the man shot in the leg by ICE officers in Minneapolis on Wednesday has disputed key elements of the Department of Homeland Security version of the incident, saying the shooting happened at the door of the man's house as he let his housemate inside, rather than out on the street during the scuffle, because ICE was trying to say that from the ICE, their version was I got attacked by a shovel and a broomstick. It sounds so stupid, but that's what they said. And it was actually like an ice shovel, so chances are it's just like a big plastic thing. It's not really going to be dangerous. And then getting shot at at your home sounds more plausible, and eyewitnesses kind of corroborate with that. The mother was saying here, and you're going to get different points of view, so not everything's 100%. That's why you look at multiple witnesses. Sosa's Celi's mother, citing an account from her son, said DHS had actually been pursuing one of his housemates. Okay, so I'm not sure if the person who got shot was the one they were pursuing. That may not be. Who knows? Celis let into the house just before the shooting, and then they called 911. Also says this, they were all, I think, DoorDash drivers. So it's important to point this stuff out because it shows the kind of people that Trump are going after. Are we a little bit? So Celis, who lives in Venezuela, told the Post that her son called her from the hospital after he was taken into custody by ICE. He told her he received a panic call Wednesday evening from Alfredo Alejandro Alhorna, who is one of his housemates and a fellow DoorDash driver. Celis said Horno said he was being pursued by ICE and that he needed Sosa Celis to let him in the front door of the house where they and their partners and their children and others live. So I think from what I can gather, I think they were chasing a different person and then shot the person in the house. Solis Celis opened the door to let Arjono inside. Celis said Arjono ran indoors. Celis went to close the door, and the ICE officer shot him in the leg, his mother said. The men retreated into the house, and people inside called emergency dispatch to call 911, which totally makes sense. Then they said basically ICE broke down the front door. And then they I guess, took the two guys, so the person they were chasing, the person in the house, and then another person that wasn't even involved is what it says here. So I'll read it. It says they arrested Arjono, Sosa Celi, and Gabriel Alejandro Hernandez Ledesma, who Celis said was not involved in the incident and was in the basement of the house where he lives, right? All three men are undocumented immigrants from Venezuela, according to DHS. Sosi Celis' family said his temporary protected status to live legally in the United States lapsed last year. DHS had not announced charges against the men as of Friday afternoon. And I wanted to go over this part because I think it's important. There's multiple ways you can understand this. So one is they're DoorDash drivers, and chances are, I don't know the details, but chances are that's what they do. And are these people like dangerous criminals? Probably not. But just from what they say, and they're not charged with anything. Why are they chasing a particular person? I don't know. I don't know. The DHS said before targeted stop, but you never know what these people are. Are they just looking for people delivering sandwiches and start arresting people if you're brown delivering a sandwich? It's certainly a possibility, as crazy as it sounds. And it's frankly, it's sick. Also, this happens as well if we want to understand the situation just in an honest way. Some people do come to the USA legally, actually, get, whatever papers they need to have, and then their status, their work visa basically expires, and they don't leave. Sometimes they should just leave, just being frank with you guys. Other times, maybe they actually are going through the system to renew it properly, but the system's so convoluted and slow and understaffed and underfunded, then that things like this can happen. So it could be either one of two things. And then the other issue is, which people don't bring up enough when I'm bringing up to you, is DoorDash should do checks on these kind of things. And also, if you're serious about this stuff, you would go after employers as well as the workers, right? If you're serious about cleaning up the system. The Trump people clearly are not. They just want us out killing each other in the streets. So I just wish we'd have honest conversations about this stuff. And that's why I'm just mentioning it with you. We don't talk enough about because people get so angry at the delivery drivers. So shouldn't you be upset at the company who hires them also? Because that would change the equation entirely if they couldn't find work. I think that's a pretty easy thing to mention. I don't know why no one ever does. And then you're going to hear from DHS. They mentioned that from their version, we read it before on the channel, there was like a chase. They crashed into a parked car, fled on foot, and then the ICE agent supposedly chased the person, and they claim they got attacked by 3 people with a shovel and a broomstick. It sounds so stupid, but that's what they say. And then they said, I had to shoot them. So it's very different than, say, shooting someone at their house as they're letting their roommate into the door, basically. Here's more. When asked to provide additional evidence or body cam footage, right? I guess they don't have any. And then the gnome then says, I would say that our agent is beat up, he's bruised, he's injured, he's getting treatment, and we're thankful that he made it out alive. So they always have to make the claim that their life is in danger, right? Which I highly doubt. And then this is neighbors' point of view. Just listen to this. And it's important to put in perspective, like, these are just neighborhoods. So this is someone, she's 35. She said she was home preparing dinner for her children at 6:30. Husband left with one of the sons for Bible study. She heard 2 men arguing. And there's a quote. We heard 2 men arguing. Then we heard a screech of a vehicle trying to go. And then we heard 2 to 3 gunshots, okay? And she's got children in the house, as it says. She said she saw uniformed ICE officers with guns drawn, quote, swarm the house. She heard some officers shout, come out now, or we're going to shoot, and other things in Spanish. And again, we're going after DoorDash drivers. I never hear of any of these, DoorDash drivers or whoever shooting at the ICE agents. So there's no reason to be shooting at people inside a house. I mean, they're just delivery drivers, right? We can argue about their work status, but it doesn't mean you need to shoot these people. I hope that's really clear. Johnson's, and this is another neighbor, Johnson's said she saw ICE officers shoot out one of the windows of the house. They threw one smoke bomb, then yelled fire. Then afterwards, we could see smoke in the second window. One of the front, like why are we throwing smoke bombs in these places? Like I said, if there are reports of, say, people in the house shooting back, you would definitely have, the DHS would definitely tell you that. If they found any weapons, they would definitely tell you that. We don't hear any of this stuff, and yet they're using smoke bombs, shooting out, and the other people are just trying to have dinner, in the neighborhoods, like just live their lives. Johnson heard DHS account, like what did the gnome people say? Quote, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. She questioned why the officer ended up grappling and chasing someone who was just trying to detain. Why didn't he call for backup sooner? And that was a question that I had when I first read the account. It's like, it didn't really make any sense. Quote, even if you're going after someone you know is illegal, you have backup. Here's more from neighbors. Quote, they were combative all night, the younger Ross said. They were shooting tear gas. It was all in the air. You couldn't stand outside without coughing. This is just people's neighborhood. The activity was still going on around as he went to bed at 2:30 a.m. I went to sleep. Boom, boom, boom. Sounded like a war zone. And that's what people are dealing with. And I know it's different than what you see with, in the videos, because like there's a lot of people in their houses that don't go outside. And this is important to hear their stories as well. They have children in these things, families, right? Just trying to have dinner. And that's why it's important to mention, like the one dad just took his kid to go to Bible study, right? Here's more. Quote, they're trying to make a riot out of it, the elder Ross said of Trump. Quote, Governor Walz is doing a good thing, trying to keep them together, right? And then Trump, and it also says that when he mentioned that he was choking up as he spoke, because, people are shaking right now, which I completely understand. So at least some local people, they're, trying to hold together. And then Trump's threatening to do the Insurrection Act, which is basically send the military on America, basically attack our own people. Quote, if I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think I need it right now. That's according to Trump. Here's some what more local people say. Johnson, the neighbor, said she does not think Trump invoking the Insurrection Act does not support that. Quote, I don't think they need U.S. troops or National Guard. They need a safe and secure plan. If the federal government is going to continue to use ICE, they need to treat these people like humans. You can't just go in guns blazing. You disrupt communities. You make people scared. That's from a neighbor. This is a different point of view. So this would be someone who supports Trump. Just listen to what they say. Give you a different point of view. I feel like a lot of this was brought on by our mayor and our government officials, and they were very well aware of fraud. It's come from Bryant Johnson. Quote, and if he didn't let that kind of stuff continue and go on, we might not have this much of an ICE presence. When you come here from another country to defraud our country of hundreds of millions of dollars, you've got to go. Okay? Then the guy's wife actually disagrees. His wife shook her head. Quote, there has to be a different way of getting them out. There's plenty of Americans that committed fraud. They go to jails. They don't get killed. And there's two different points of views on this stuff. You already know my point of view on these things. I don't think you need to just be shooting people. And that's also a good point to bring up as well. There's a lot of Americans that commit fraud. Also, you can look at the President of the United States as a felon. The dude's a felon, right? And he surrounds himself with a bunch of scammers and fraudsters, etc., right? Any number of things that you can talk about here. And then here's more. It says the father-in-law who lives in St. Paul spoke on a condition of anonymity because he is undocumented, describes Sosa Celis as a hardworking man who provides for his family in the United States and Venezuela. So it's the person they shot. So probably sending money home, also supporting family in the U.S. Sosa's mother said Thursday evening that she had not heard from her son since Wednesday night and does not know where he is or the status of his injury. Quote, I haven't been able to sleep. He has never a no for me. He says, here, Mom, take as much as you want. So again, these are the people that Trump are going after, basically DoorDash delivery drivers. And it's effectively what this ends up being, and I've seen different things of this, is that the Trump people send ICE agents into poor neighborhoods, basically cause a bunch of chaos. They bring cameras. They want to make their social media stuff. And I've seen the Bovino guy, which is like one of the head ICE people. He'll bring him and his people with a bunch of cameras, and then they do photo ops, and they're trying to make a TV show. And then Trump's team realized, oh, well, our TV show is not that popular right now. Oh, we got to come up with another TV show. And Trump doesn't care about people at all. It should be obvious. And it's strange when I see MAGA people, like you'll see them around, like this like weird whacked out stuff on the internet. But sometimes you wonder, like, these people could just be bots, or they could just be like just angry people nonstop, and it really has nothing to do with, anything that's going on. They just like to say angry stuff, or effectively trolls. But I do know, and that's why it's important to read just people's neighbors and stuff like that's accounts, that the average person just wants to live their life. They want to live in peace. They don't want the military on the streets, and they don't want tear gas, everywhere, so you can't sleep. I'm not saying anything crazy. And I look at this whole scenario, because you can get, into the details and the weeds, and just, put out fire. But the biggest thing you really need to address is just failed leadership in the USA, which is a whole other topic. And I'll just make one simple statement about this. If Americans really want to have a better nation and a better world, look beyond just people like Trump for leadership. There's all kinds of talent in the USA if you're willing to look at lots of other different types of groups that you never thought about before. And I'll leave it at that. And I do appreciate your time. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.